This is Archon.
And this is Nineball. And welcome to Westmarch.
Do you want to try that again, or should we just keep going?
Let's just go with it. That's the opening.
This is live.
You know who we are. This is live. This is live, pre-recorded.
This is Westmarch Workshop, where we can redo things, but we don't.
Workshop. I will be able to say this. We're 7 episodes in, and I still can't say it correctly. But yes, here we are. Episode 7. Everyone should be celebrating patch 2.0.5. We had the amazing update yesterday. We're ready to rock, ready to roll. I hope everything is showering legendaries upon you, and if they aren't yet, they will tomorrow, because we're right on the doorstep of the 2nd anniversary of Diablo, and we've got a lot to talk about today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Not just the patch, but also anniversary stuff. Lots of stuff going on. And probably not enough time. We're probably just gonna get some of it. Who knows?
We might have to cut some things out. Who knows? So we shall see. We got a ton of stuff. I guess just getting right in there. Well, we want to cover some other stuff before we get into the news. But I mean, patch 2.0.5. That's just
there's half the show right there.
That's a lot. I know. It's a lot bigger. That included a lot more changes than I was expecting, to be honest. I was thinking that it's going to be some bug fixes. We'll do the Project Cash change. We'll do the gambling change, and we'll do some minor little tweaks. But damn, Crusader. This patch should just be called Crusader 2.0 with everything that they're doing on it.
2.0 Crusader.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think they saw that coming.
No.
But let's go ahead. Let's start off with our week in gaming. How was your week of videojuegos?
My week in gaming is pretty good. I guess the cat's out of the bag now. Last week I was talking about how I was leveling up a softcore monk. Well, the reason why I was leveling up a softcore monk is because both Archon and myself are taking part in the anniversary stream that's tomorrow with the developers, which you should definitely check out. Not self-plugging in any way, shape, or form.
Self-plugging all over.
But yeah, of course. But it's they don't have hardcore characters because they have special stream accounts set up for the developers to play. So I needed to get a software character.
Hack accounts.
They made it. They have one of the it's what they have is they have an intern down in QA that just plays that account 24/7, and that's why they have everything. All classes and their Paragon 800 already. But so I've been just working on that character, trying to get it ready for the stream. Thanks to a bunch of my friends in my guild and in my clan that helping me run through rifts and get some gear for my monk. That was definitely pretty awesome. That's pretty much it. And then played a little bit of patch 2.0.5 yesterday. I was having some issues with rifts. So I was one of those people that had it crash on me a couple times. By the end of the evening, I did manage to run 2 full rifts and only disconnect 4 or 5 times with my friends. So, I got to experience a little bit of that. Legendaries were just raining from the sky.
Nice.
We were going, I think it was only like Torment 3 or Torment 4, and nothing from Kadala, of course, but definitely saw some, I think we completed, I want to say maybe 5 acts worth of bounties, and I got 2 legendaries from the pack, so I saw a little bit increase, a little bit more bonuses there. But that's anecdotal, of course, because I've seen other people that have gone through and they've only gotten 2 legendaries out of 50. So
yeah, I
we'll
imagine there's probably a handful of people on the forums that are complaining that the drop chance is actually lower with the bonus than without the bonus. Someone out there like I played for 1 hour and I didn't get a legendary. The bonus is a lie. I'm sure it's all over the forums right now.
Yep.
So you're doing lore and story tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah, I'll be doing lore and story with Brian Kindergit and Leonard Boyarski. Leo Boyarski. I always screw up his last name, but yeah, they're the lead writer for Reaper of Souls, as well as one of the senior world designers that's worked the whole way through both the Diablo 3 games.
Very nice. Yeah, that's exciting.
And how has your weekend gaming been? And obviously, who is it that you're streaming with?
Yes, I'm excited about this anniversary stream. I was lucky enough to do it last year, and I can't believe it's been a year already because that seemed like it was like a few weeks ago or something.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so tomorrow, I guess you'll be playing at what, like 4:15, 4:30, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
Pacific.
yeah, because I believe it is like 7 or 8 o'clock my time. So that's actually I have to go and look this back up. I should have it, written down already, shouldn't I? But I'll be filling up the hour before you. So yeah, I'll be I think it's like 5:30 to or 4:30 to 5:30
All right.
time period, something like that.
So yeah, so the whole thing starts. It goes from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific. So Eastern, that's 5 to 10. And there's four of us. We each take an hour, and there's gonna be some breaks in between. But Nine Ball will be the second to last, and I'll be the last hour of it. He'll be talking about lore and story. I'll be talking about direction and production. So I think I got pretty lucky because I'm gonna be streaming with Josh Muscara, game director, talking about direction.
Yeah, I mean, you got the big man on campus himself.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. I've been able to talk with him a bit before, and he's like really chill.
Hmm.
At the launch party, he ordered me a beer. He knows a lot about beer.
Nice, nice.
Little tidbit there. Anyway, and Rob Foote, he's the senior game producer, and I have yet to be able to talk with him, so it'll be cool to talk with him about production.
Yeah, I think is he taking over the position? I'm not sure if not a lot of people know what the internal politics inside of Blizzard are like and who shifts around. I don't know if he was a senior producer before or if he just got promoted now that Alex Mayberry left the team.
I don't know. You seem to know a little bit more about it than I do.
Oh, there.
And we'll
We
find
will we
out.
will see. That will be a
Yeah.
question that you could ask.
There we go. Are you
Hmm.
replacing that guy that just left? Is that why you're here? That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's the perfect way. You should phrase it exactly like that. I'm sure it
Yeah.
will go over.
Yeah. Let's wing it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't played much 2.0.5 yet, and by much I mean any. But
Shame on you.
yeah, I know, so shame. And the patch looks really cool. I can't wait to talk about it because I have a lot of opinions, even though I haven't been able to playtest much. Looked really cool, and I'm excited to play tomorrow. But I've still been addicted to Pathfinder. My lack of a computer has forced me into the world of tabletops, and I'm playing tomorrow actually. And then again on
Yeah.
Saturday. Like we're all of us are addicted, so
Um,
but it's good to know that we can be entertained without the use of technology.
yes, we still have that capability within us as human beings.
Yes, we can always just sit around and talk to each other and still pretend to be axe wielding barbarians murdering hordes of enemies, which is the only thing that's
Yeah,
really important in life,
yeah.
I think.
And then have that. What is best in life?
I think our
Crush
stream,
your
our
enemies.
I think our Skype delay is a little bit worse than normal today. We keep
Oh,
stepping on each
really?
other. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I guess it probably is on my side because I hear you pause for a moment there and then I start going. So
Yes, I'm
sorry.
getting this occasional lag from you, so it's probably just getting a little bit worse. But bear with us, viewers. We'll do our best with the stream delay. But that really Pathfinder took up my week. I'm really looking forward to the stream tomorrow. But that was about it for me.
Yeah, we had some people submit some feedback on Pathfinder, and we got a couple of emails, talking about some suggestions on, the great websites for going and doing Pathfinder online, is how to set it up and stuff like that, and some other
I
people just cheering on YouTube about it.
Wow. Yes, I missed these emails. I need to go back through our Westmarch Workshop account, I guess.
Hmm.
Nineball's so good at organizing our Westmarch Workshop account. He is all in folders and stuff, and I'm so used to being unorganized. I can never find these folders.
It's the
Anyways,
one good
sorry.
at.
Yes,
I have organizational skills.
that's the my biggest weakness, I guess. But moving on, more Diablo talk,
Yeah,
less our
let's get into
personal
the news.
flaws. Yeah, we have a lot of it, so let's just jump right in. Should we just start with the patch?
I, I, I mean, it's a good place to start. Let's go for it.
People want to hear about the patch. Yeah, you guys have been playing it, I'm sure, but we got mostly class changes, a few legendary changes, and a few other fun tidbits. Um, It looked like overall they've actually buffed some of the more popular builds. I was really surprised. I mean, we'll get into each class, but the Witch Doctor, Demon Hunter, some of these buffs really hit like the builds that the pet-based builds,
Hmm.
Marauder set. Some of these builds that have been more popular with players actually getting buffed, which is rare. I think usually the unpopular builds get buffed.
Yeah, I mean they're addressing. I guess it's more because some of the things, especially the Demon Hunter. I guess let's just start with the Demon Hunter changes because I can go on about that.
Let's do it.
Is Yeah, is because it is a popular build that it was popular, and even though it was powerful, it still did have some issues. The main issue is in how the set bonus worked that allowed you to have all of your pets out at once. it There's a lot of wonky collision. All of the pets had very large collision boxes, and they would just start tripping over themselves. So there'd only be a few of your pets ever attacking the enemies at one time, especially in crowded corridors, or when there was a bunch of enemies, or only one that they were trying to all go through and surround. So what they did is they shrunk the collision box on the pets so that way they could more uniformly get to the enemy and they could all attack at once. So it's not so much it's a direct buff to the skill and that particular playstyle, but it's more of a buff through a bug fix that makes it perform better. um, you know Other than that, you have just some changes to grenades. Grenades used to be really good before because you could throw out it used to throw out multiple grenades, and they had a very large explosion radius depending upon the rune that you picked. Then they changed it, and you only would throw one grenade, and you had a specific rune which would actually give you that area of effect. They now have increased the area of effect. They went through and they changed it to where it will more reliably explode if an enemy is near it when it throws, so you don't throw a grenade and it bounces past them and then explodes. They increase the maximum range so you can throw it all the way to the edge of the screen instead of it blowing up halfway. There's they try to make it what's the word that I'm going for? They try to make it more appealing to players so that way you have more of an incentive to want to use it as opposed to some of the other skills. They also did some few, like I think only one elemental tweak with Hungering Arrow. They just changed one of them from physical to cold, just to give you a little bit more of that elemental, spectrum that you can choose from depending upon what you want to do, which is kind of the general theme of all of the classes. They did little tweaks with what elements are available to which skills, so you just have more options. You can build how you want to build. They also finally started addressing the squishiness of the demon hunters. Even though they're head and shoulders above where they were in classic, they're nowhere near as squishy as they once were. They still are incredibly squishy compared to every other class in the game because they're a glass cannon like the wizard and the witch doctor, but they don't get the secondary benefit of having intellect as their main stat, so their resists aren't as good. They just get dodge, which does nothing. But they now have a new talent, awareness, which was changed. Instead of giving you a stacking dodge buff, it just 30% flat armor based on your dexterity, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Very
pretty
awesome.
huge armor buff, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's not as good as the monks, so there's definitely still squishy, but they're not as in a bad a situation as they were before, and I believe that they're still going to monitor it and see if there's any other changes that they need to make. So that's pretty cool changes that they had there.
Yeah, I imagine most players will agree that it's not quite enough. That we still need some more survivability on the Demon Hunter to make it in line with the other classes. Not although the Demon Hunter I think should be the weakest class because it kind of has that glass cannon role. I think most players will still feel it's a little too squishy.
Yeah, there's squishy, and then there's squishy, and they're just kind of squishy. I guess maybe I see it a little bit, because of the play style that I have. Every time my life drops below 50% health, I realize it. So I see that a lot more often than most other players might take note of.
Then those Care Bear softcore players.
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
Well, I'll take Wizard since you took the second best class, Demon Hunter. I'll take the first best. So,
bro, you hurt me.
I'm sorry. No, I actually haven't been able to play around with many of these changes, but they're pretty self-explanatory, I think, and I like them. I think some people are going to be upset about these teleport changes, but the truth is, teleport with wormhole has been like the skill to use as a wizard. Not that it's that great, but it's just like, why not use it? You get crazy mobility from one skill, and it doesn't really the other teleport runes don't compare at all to wormhole, and so Blizzard's been
Mm-hmm.
fighting this fight against wormhole to try to get people to use the other runes as well. Last patch, they took down the teleports from 4 down to 3, and now they're taking it down to 2. But
Mm-hmm.
do not fret. Overall, I think Wormhole's staying about the same. It's just that the other teleport runes are going to get better. Because the cooldown on teleport was 16 seconds, it's now 11 seconds. So, yeah, what about a 30% reduction in cooldown? Pretty
Mm-hmm.
huge right there, 5 seconds taken off. And now, although you can only teleport twice with Wormhole, you have 3 seconds to do the second teleport. So you can teleport, walk a bit, teleport again. And
Mm-hmm.
they say ultimately you can teleport just as much. You just have more control, and of course it's an overall buff to the other runes.
Yep.
And I think
So
the other.
it's
Sorry,
like,
go ahead.
yeah, it's just so it's like over a time period. Like if you take a 1 minute, in that time period, you'll still be able to teleport the same number of times in the same distance with the new change compared to being able to cast it 3 times, previously before the patch.
Yes. So I really hope players don't see this as a nerf. It's really not a nerf. You might have preferred the other teleport because you can move a lot at once. But as far as a movement ability, Wormhole's going to be just as good. It's just that you actually have a choice now. You might want to choose one of those runes. For like reversal, for example, if you use okay, so reversal, for anyone who doesn't know, is a rune on teleport that allows you to teleport back to where you started from within, I think, 8 seconds of the original teleport cast. So you can teleport somewhere, fight, and then hit it again, and you'll teleport back to wherever you were, where you originally teleported from. It also now takes down the cooldown of teleport to 1 second. So you can just keep bouncing back and forth like crazy. So reversal's looking pretty cool. I'm excited to try it out. And the other big change to wizards was Archon can now be used with any elemental type. So that's a really big change. You can be a fire Archon, you can be a lightning Archon, you can be a cold Archon. It's not an arcane build anymore. You just whatever you want. And I think it's a pretty cool change because I don't think there's any real reason to have Archon be specifically arcane. Archon, anyone who went arcane was pretty much going Archon, and now it's just
Mm-hmm.
if you want to have an Archon build, whatever element is fine, but you don't feel, I think, forced into it if you're arcane already.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And on
go
top
ahead.
of that, the Veer set.
Yes, Veer set is fixed now, so you can use whatever rune you want, and you'll get all the bonuses. And what else did they change on it? I can't remember. Sorry,
Um,
I thought they
I think it's the bonus damage type that you get instead of just always being arcane will now be
whatever you have the most in.
whichever is the highest. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So that's a nice change. Do you want to cover the new class they made in this patch, where they deleted the Crusader and added a new class with the same name?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'll take a stab at this. This has actually been making me want to go back and play my Crusader, which is my other level 70 hardcore character that I play. Um, yeah, I want to say that if you've followed Reaper of Souls from the beginning when we had the very first Friends and Family beta, uh, this is that class more or less.
Hmm.
This is the Crusader back then. They they went through they found that it's still taking too much damage, so the base 15% damage reduction that they had, they finally upped it, and so they made it the same reduction as both monks and barbarians. So now all melee classes get the base 30% damage reduction to help them fall more in line. It it was originally they're already so tanky. They already have so many survivability talents and passives. They're always going to be using a shield. They're just going to take less damage than other people to begin with. But that only kind of made them about even with the other classes, and they found that they were taking more. So last patch they added in that 15% damage reduction, and then that still just balanced it out. but they want to be, that's part of the theme of the character. They're supposed to just be taking less damage than anyone else. So they finally went, screw it, we'll just give them, we'll just give it to them. So they finally went and buffed it. So now that they should be the tankiest build, the tankiest class in the game, bar none, opposite of the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I think it's about time.
From there, yeah, it's definitely, it's not something I'll say no to, because beforehand, like I said, they were more or less on par with monks and barbarians in terms of their survivability. Now it's just better. It's just flat out better. They also made some interesting changes. They wanted to change up. A lot of Crusaders felt that Heavenly Strength, the talent that allowed them to use a two-hander in one hand when they were using a shield, was mandatory. But then it also limited you, because if you play in a multiplayer game, everyone has 25% movement speed, and you're trudging around at 10% movement speed. So you're always falling behind, and you're using Steed Charge just to keep up with the rest of the group. They went through and they removed it, so now you just get to use a two-handed weapon with a shield. No penalties. So you get to move at full movement speed, which is awesome and is a necessity. And to balance it, they changed one of the talents to make it so that way you get, I believe it is 15% increased attack speed and 15% reduced or 15% cooldown reduction when using a one-hander and a shield on the Fervor passive. So, so they just went and they changed it around. So if you want to play it for two-hander, take Heavenly Strength. You want to play it for one-hander, take Fervor. It's a nice thing that they have the options there. We'll see how the theory crafters and all go and take hold of that and see what they spit out, because one of them is going to be better than the other. When I don't even know where to begin. I'll leave that to the people that love that type of thing. I'm sure we'll probably get email from Danny Ray about it next week, as that kid is amazing at going into theory crafting and giving us some really detailed work in those emails that he sends every week.
Yeah, someone tells me that Fervor is just not going to be quite enough. I feel like two-handers are going to be still the default for Crusaders.
It could be. One of the other big things that Crusaders suffer from is Wrath generation. They really have that one where all of your damage is in your Wrath spenders, and when you go to the Wrath generator, you feel naked. You can't do anything. So they're still really limited in that. When you're using a one-hander and then it increases your attack speed on top of it, you're going to get more Wrath generation, which allows you to then drop more of your big damaging spells. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. And obviously, cooldown reduction is insanely powerful for almost every class. So that additional 15% cooldown reduction, that's 15 seconds off of your phalanx, or not 15 seconds, but 15% off of your phalanx, 15% off of your bombardment. So it allows you to get those big damaging attacks sooner. You get them when you need them. Other than that, I mean, just what else is there to say? Just every single skill across the board got a damage buff. I mean, dang. So, Blessed Shield, Blessed Hammer, Bombardment, Condemn, Falling Sword, Fist of the Heavens, every single generator, almost every single spender had its damage increased. All of the laws had their cooldowns reduced to 30 seconds. It's just across the board. Huge damage buffs, and we're not talking like little damage buffs, like 350 to 380% weapon damage. We're talking like almost 100+% on every single skill. There's some of them that have just gotten insane ones, like Heaven's Fury went from 1200% weapon damage to 1700% weapon damage. It's big numbers. You're looking at 30, 40, 50, sometimes 50+% damage increase in a lot of these skills. And they wanted to make some differentiation between some of the skills, because they felt that like Falling Sword and what was it? Sorry, it was Falling Sword and Shield Bash were more or less filling the same role. So they wanted, or not Shield Bash, a Blessed Shield were filling the same role. So they wanted to change that up and make it so that there was actually a clear distinction. So Blessed Shield is your multi-target, Fist of Heavens is your single target. Wrath spenders. So it's just amazing. This is the Crusader patch. This is the patch that every single person that's ever played a Crusader was waiting for. It's really cool. and I really can't wait to see. I've already seen a couple of people posting some stuff on Reddit about some potential Crusader builds, some things that they're talking about, and so I'm sure by next week we'll see if this was enough. If people still feel that Crusaders need more of a buff, because this was the biggest complaint, was just there wasn't enough damage. They felt like they were lagging behind everybody in their killing speeds, and we'll see. I mean, I definitely want to go through and play my Crusader again. And after tomorrow, I'll probably go back and gear out that Crusader and get some Holy Smackdown going.
Nice. Yeah, definitely a good day to be a Crusader. Those patch notes. I can't. Anyone who actually reads through all the Crusader patch notes must be pretty into the Crusader because it is quite a read. But if you don't mind, I'll take the Witch Doctor next.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So the Witch Doctor got some changes that were kind of common across other classes. One, that the elemental damage type is changing for a lot of skills. It seems like most of the changes are away from physical. Just saying F you to physical. There's not enough gear out there for you. We don't feel like making the gear for you. You're just another elemental type now.
Yeah, that seems the big thing. The physical skills is just a very boring damage type.
Yeah. So Witch Doctor's no exception there. We got a lot of things that went from physical to, for example, leaping spiders. Went from physical to poison. I'm sorry, it's a rune on corpse spiders, as well as Medusa spiders went from physical to cold. Also, a change that was kind of consistent with Witch Doctor and the Barb. I want to say one other is how crit works on spells that are channeling. Where a lot of these, like Rend or for Witch Doctor, Haunt, and Locust Swarmed, used to crit occasionally. Now they just have the crit chance factored into the damage. So these spells, these dots and channeled spells will no longer, not all of them, but the ones that are selected in the patch notes, will no longer crit on an individual basis, but will rather just have their damage increased by the same amount. So the damage will be the same, but you won't get the procs that you would normally get off of critting from a spell. The bonus is that the damage is more consistent, but of course you're losing those crit procs.
Yep. So it's if you have, like I'm sure there's a calculation. If you have 30% crit with 300% crit damage, it's just going to factor what that average is into and then increase the overall duration of the dot's damage by that much.
Yeah, increase the damage, not the duration of the dot, but yeah. So damage will be the same. You'll just if you have like a crit based build with crit procs, you might not want to use these dots anymore, but otherwise it should just be a bonus. You're just gonna have more consistent damage.
I don't know if you've seen anything about this, but I do wonder for Witch Doctors from the theory crafting standpoint, how does that going to work with the dot set? What is it? The Jade
Harvester.
Jade Harvester. Since your damage is now not based on crits, it's just overall increase. Is that going to give the Soul Harvest proc just a huge damage bonus? And then can that still crit on top of it, where you're going to get, kind of double dipping on it a little bit? So has that gotten better?
I don't think so, because I don't think none of the dots will be subject to being able to crit. The damage should be consistent every time you cast them. Or maybe I'm not understanding.
It's the damage itself is coming off of the Soul Siphon. That's the actual damaging spell now. That it consumes the dot and then does damage. If that damages the Soul Siphon and they don't have it set to not crit, then it could crit off of the buffed crit damage.
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it depends on how it's coded. Yeah, that would be interesting to theorycraft and see if that got a buff. There's a few other changes to the Witch Doctor. One was that Fetish Sycophants, the little guys that get summoned if you have the passive that summons them on cast. It used to summon them 5% of the time when you cast a spell. Not when you hit, but when you cast a spell. And procs based on casts are not subject to proc coefficients. So that's literally every 20 casts on average you're going to summon one of these little guys, and some spells actually cast faster than others, like one of the Fire Bats runes. Maybe it's just Fire Bats in general, actually.
I think it was just fire bats in general.
Okay. So now they've changed it so it's on hit, which means it's subject to a proc coefficient, which kind of normalizes all the skills to have an equal rate of procking, and they doubled the chance. So it's now a 10% proc chance. What this means for you as a witch doctor is if you're attacking just a couple enemies, you'll actually probably get a nerf to how many little guys you summon, but if you're attacking a big group of enemies, you'll get an effective buff to how many little guys you're summoning. Overall, it should be about the same though. And the last change was movement speed. A lot of people felt like witch doctors didn't have the movement speed. They really don't have they can't compete with vault or wormhole or some of the other classes' movement abilities. And so they've changed one of the passives, Fierce Loyalty, to give 30% movement speed if you have pets out and you're not in combat. So
that's nice.
So you do a fight, you can run to the next fight with 30% increased speed and keep up with your group, hopefully.
And then that one also allows. Let's also change it to where you can have one more zombie dog out at the time, right?
Yes, yeah. So so many zombie. Was that 6 zombie dogs you can have max now?
I think, and what's that one? It's like the Finger of the Giant or Finger of the Large one. There's a ring that makes it to where it combines all of your zombie dogs into one giant zombie dog, and it actually scales with the damage. So if you could have 4 out or 5 out, that it will increase its damage for each one of those dogs. So with that passive adding yet another additional one, you can get it even larger. Because I think I remember seeing someone using that build on GOM, and they were getting 200 million crits off of the gargantuan zombie dog, which was ridiculous.
Wow. And that should be even more buff now, because the zombie dog damage was only 12%, and now it's 30%.
The last Spartan just went said, "Tall man's finger."
Tall man's finger. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's a 150% buff in damage to zombie dog's bite. And they also get they weren't correctly getting the bonus from elemental damage until now as well. So
this is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. Gargantuans also weren't getting the bonus from elemental damage. Overall, it was just a huge buff to pet-based witch doctors, it looks like, and the rest of the change were pretty modest. Some of the fire bat runes were buffed. Overall, the mana is going to be lower, and then let's see, dire bats, hungry bats, and vampire bats all got a pretty significant buff to either the damage or the mana cost. The other things were pretty small, not worth going over, but if you play Witch Doctor, definitely worth reading through, because Witch Doctor's got some pretty substantial changes.
Yeah, all those pet buffs, reminds me of the good old Lagromancers back in the day.
Yeah, it looks like Witch Doctors might finally be getting to the place where you could be fully optimized playing a pet-based build. I wanted to...
Yeah. Well,
I was going to ask you if you thought that before this patch, if you thought the monks or the crusader needed a bigger buff.
Personally, I think that the crusaders kind of needed the bigger buff out of the classes, because they really just were really suffering. You had to use a two-hander to be viable, which slowed you down, and then even then your skills just weren't doing all that much damage compared to other classes. So you slowed down the group, you didn't kill as fast, you're just kind of there for utilities and buffs. Monks are also suffering, definitely not saying that monks are in a great position, compared to everyone else. Monks also need some loving as well. They didn't really receive much in this patch, but we'll get into it once we're done talking about all the patch notes. But there's going to be more for the monks coming in the future. So, going through and speaking on that note, we can go through and I can talk about the monk changes.
Please do. I'm such a monk noob, and I know you've been playing one a lot.
Yeah, the only skill that received any bonuses this time was Wave of Light. Compared to the other spirit spenders, predominantly Lashing Tail Kick, it didn't compete. The damage versus the spirit was nowhere near in line with the other things that you could do. So they greatly upped the damage on all of the runes, and then they also shift around some of the elemental types, which is really the only other change that monks got. Was almost all of their spirit generators got elemental tweaks. They had different elemental affixes added onto all of them. There's a lot of them, particularly like Way of the Hundred Fists. Every single one of those was physical. I believe there was, before the patch, there was one that did holy damage, and then everything else was physical. So they went and they changed it around so that way you had more opportunity, that if you're going and making a fire monk, you had fire sweeping winds, you had one of the lash tail kicks that did fire damage. You didn't really have that many options on what spender that it was that you wanted to use. You really had one choice to go to that did fire damage. Now you have multiples. So now every single, not spender, sorry, generator. So every single generator now has multiple damage types for you to choose from to just, give you more options. Increase the play type a little bit there. And fortunately, that was really about it. There was some other little tweaking changes to Fist of Thunder. They changed one of the ones that did cold damage. Now has the third hit will always freeze the enemy, and of course it's cold damage instead of lightning damage, just to be a little bit more thematical with its elemental type. But I guess, while we still have more to cover on the patch, I guess this is just a good time to just quickly go and talk about one of the things that they said.
Yeah.
Gromiko actually took to the forums just a few hours ago, and he wanted to say that just because there weren't that many changes for monks in this patch doesn't mean that they've forgotten about you. There are more things coming down the line, and they're going to really focus in on some of the core attributes and core flaws in 2.1 for monks. So it's one of the things that they're definitely going to hone in on and try to address some of the issues that have been plaguing them. They're also going to address some of the other class issues that they're having through items, which all the classes have. They kind of have like that one item set, which is like meh, Firebird's Finery for mages or the Shadow's Mantle for demon hunters. You just kind of look at the set bonuses and you're like, that's cool. I'll use this set instead. It wasn't something that you really wanted to.
Actually, speaking of sets, did we mention the buff to Marauders set coming? With the sentries. I think
yeah. I guess I kind of skipped over that one. They did up it, though. I haven't tested it out, obviously, because I don't have the Marauder set myself. But one of the things that they had mentioned was just that they had doubled the rate. Yeah, they doubled the rate.
It differs from skill to skill, but on average, I think it was about double.
Yeah, which is, beforehand they were getting like one cast off, before they went away or before the enemies are dead. So now you get two casts off. I think it needs greater proc chance. If they just kind of shot that skill at half damage than what they were, for if you were casting it, and that was just the only thing that they used, it'd be a lot nicer. More people would use it. But we'll see what the final verdict is once people have more time to test around with it.
Yeah. Did you want to say anything else about that before we move on to the final class?
No, unfortunately, that really is about it for monks. They changed a lot of the elemental types. That helps you out in certain respects because it helps buff your damage if you're focusing in on just one elemental type. Gives you more options, allows you to actually use a generator that's decent and uses the elemental type damage that you want. So it's a slight buff through itemization, but not really what people were looking for.
Makes sense. Well, with Barbarians, they didn't get a lot of changes. I mentioned some of them already. Rend is getting the same changes that a lot of dots are getting. They're not going to be able to crit, but they'll still do the same amount of damage, just more consistently. They're getting a lot of their skills changed from physical, mostly to cold. From my understanding, Barbs have been almost entirely lightning or fire as of now. Maybe cold will become a new build. One of the runes on Frenzy will be cold. Sidearm. Overpower, Crushing Advance will now be cold instead of physical. Revenge, Best Served Cold, ironically was physical. Now, more appropriately, I think cold.
How could they miss that one?
Yeah, Best Served Cold. That's just a softball for him right there. Seismic Slam got a fairly large buff. They're adding an extra... Huh?
Seismic.
Sorry, seismic slam. Yes, my viewers make fun of me all the time because I always say that one wrong. It doesn't matter how many times they correct me either. But it's getting like a small AOE in addition to the initial damage radius, 10 yards wide and 10 yards long.
Nice.
Which, as we know, isn't what 10 yards would look like. It's more like what 5 to 10 feet would look like on the actual screen.
Yeah, because isn't it something like your character is something close to like?
It looks like the character's about 25 feet tall.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah. Skype froze a little bit there. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. But it also got a small damage buff from 550 to 620% damage. And the animation time used to take a little bit longer than most barbarian skills, and now it's in line with the other barbarian skills.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, wasn't any big changes. Some other small ones, but I think those were all the big barb changes. Yeah, mostly the Crusader this week, and then yeah, most of the other classes were pretty small. Maybe Witch Doctor was the second biggest as far as changes.
Yeah, I mean they got some pretty substantial buffs. I mean, just even changing the so that way your zombie dogs and gargantuan benefit from your elemental damage is going to be huge. That's one of the things that made the fetishes popular, is because they benefited from that. So now everything, all the damage.
Yes, and speaking of pets, I was very excited to see Tasker and Theos now also buff Hydras, the Wizard Hydra spell.
Yes. Give a little bit of incentive for a wizard to possibly maybe one day want to try it out for a brief period of time.
Yeah, maybe if we get 3 Hydras instead of 2 from that wand, then we could really start to put together a Hydra build. But
yeah,
not quite enough incentive to use Tasker and Theos over, Mage Fists or Frostburn.
Imagine if you had the one item that allowed you to cast a second Hydra, and then another item that turned it into a permanent pet that followed you.
Would they need to add animation, or would it be enough to just have it like gliding along with you?
Yeah, it could just do the little snake shuffle, across the ground, kind of going through and picking up with you, or they could do like they could do like a little Ragnaros after you walk like 30 yards away. They just shrink back into the ground and then pop up at your location, or they could just completely, go. Let's go the full 9 yards for one item, and they're just gonna task the art team, and we're just make a body for Hydra, so that way we can have them follow people.
Worth it for that one legendary item.
Worth it for the budget. It's great. Do it. Done. Sealed.
Yeah. I guess Puzzle Ring also got a buff, although it still doesn't look like it's where it needs to be, in my opinion. It's they're doubling the chance to get a legendary from a Puzzle Ring, which is maybe now it's only like a factor of 5 away from where it needs to be, I think, instead of the factor of 10.
Yeah, I know. I never bothered with it. I found one and I don't even use it on my mercenary just because you never see them. I don't know. Have you ever had any experience with it or know anyone that has?
No, I have a decent puzzle ring, but after just talking to my viewers, no one that's used one has ever seen a legendary from it in my channel, and that was enough for me to just be like, okay, not using it.
And then Meatloaf here in the chat says, my first item from the puzzle ring after the patch was legendary. Wow. So everyone re-equip your puzzle rings.
There you go.
Everyone do it now. Meatloaf said so. And because he's a good singer, he obviously knows what he's talking about, because no one would lie on the internet.
Yeah, one example is enough, I think.
Exactly.
If we've learned anything from the Diablo 3 forums, it's that anecdotal evidence is sufficient.
And Meatloaf, we know that isn't what you were saying, but we're just taking it there.
And we'll take it. We'll take things wherever we want them to go.
Yeah. Going from there, just some of the overall general changes. We've got some small stuff. What is it? The Reaper's Wraps now will just always drop from Malthael in story mode instead of only the first time that you kill them, because some people were getting screwed out of that. They would kill Malthael and not get Reaper's Wraps. So they had to level another character to 70 in order to get the pattern. Now it will just drop from him no matter what. So if you haven't gotten it yet, do it. So just go through and get it, because Reaper's Wraps are just insanely powerful item, usable for almost every class. Wide number of specs. They're great. Absolutely great.
Yeah.
Um, then you also had some other little ones, the Jeweler, the reduced cost on the Flawless Imperials and up, how much it cost to unsocket them. Because the Flawless Royals, it was like the one thing that was keeping me from really using Flawless Royals. It was 500,000 gold to unsocket it, which
Yeah.
is like
Pretty
that's
intense.
ridiculous. Um,
Was it now 175?
yeah, 175,000, much more in line.
Yeah, that's a lot better. I was also glad to find out that we don't need to use Imperial or Flawless Imperials anymore and can just use Marquise for enchanting rings and amulets,
Yeah,
which
definitely.
which is a factor of 81. The
Hmm.
difference. It was 81 Marquise gems before, and now it's one.
Beautiful.
Yes, I was running
Luckily,
out of gems just enchanting my jewelry.
hmm and some of the, I guess, some of the big changes going into it is obviously there's the buff to Kadala and the Roderick caches. They now both Roderick caches can drop the Torment only legendaries, and you can gamble Torment only legendaries from Kadala. I knew about the buff to the Roderick caches, but this is the first time that I saw that they had plans to actually put Torment only items into gambling. Was that something that I just completely missed, or was it something that they didn't talk about?
No, I think it came last second. I think it was just kind of snuck in there. Yeah, because the last time I had checked, they were still trying to keep that integrity of you don't get these set items until you get to Torment. And now you can play on normal and you can get anything. Technically. I mean, you can get a lot slower,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
technically could get anything.
The Herodic caches themselves will only grant Torment only legendaries if the bounty it was rewarded on was on Torment. So you can't just farm normal, get 51 caches, up the game to Torment 1, open them all, and hope that you get set pieces. No, you have to farm in at least Torment 1 in order to get that. And the Herodic caches themselves will also, I believe, they have the built in legendary drop chance. So if you farm one on Torment 1, it has a 15% increased chance to drop, whereas at the Torment 6, it was something around. What was the Torment 6 Magic Find
No, I don't
chance?
remember. When it goes up by 15% per level, and it's
I,
multiplicative. So
yeah, I want to say it was over 100%.
yes, yeah, it should be. I think yes, it would be under. It would be over 100%.
Yeah.
Exactly over 100%.
Yes, that's an exact number, so
There's
keep an
a
eye
number
out for
for
it.
you. Yeah, I
Um,
imagine if there was a way to easily track what difficulty you were on when you farmed blood shards, that they would also make it so you could only get the items from Kadala that were appropriate to the level you were farming on. But it's just too hard. You might have gotten blood shards from 5 different levels. If they want to make
yep.
them worth it, it seems like this is the way to go.
There is 131%. There we go. Found it.
There we go.
Yes. Um, but there is one way that they could very easily do that. But I don't their kind of philosophy of the minimalistic UI design, I don't think that they'll do it, and that is just adding a separate form of currency for Torment Plus,
Yeah, have like
which
blood
would make
shards and then like uber blood shards of some
yeah,
kind.
yeah, blood shards and Nephilim shards. So that way you only got the Nephilim shards while farming in Torment, and so that way it's a very easy distinction of how it was that you'd get it. But then, blood shards at that point would be useless. You'd help level up a friend, at least well on hardcore and softcore. As soon as they hit 70, let's go into Torment 3. You're good. You'll die, but who cares? You'll get items, which is what I did. But in hardcore, you actually kind of have to get them up a little bit. You have to get them geared so that way they don't get two shotted in Torment once you take them there. So it's a different mentality. And when you go back to help that person, everything is useless. And then, what would you do? Could you gain Nephilim shards before 70? Because then you could just create a game Torment 6 level 1 and get a whole bunch of them. So there's a bunch of things that they could be done, and I can definitely see design reasons of why they don't want to do it. But it's an option. It's there. It's something they could do if they really felt that strongly about it.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think Blizzard likes to keep it simple when they can. They'd rather have it simple than balanced if they had to choose, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why their games are so fun, or one reason at least, in my opinion. One other change that I was excited about in enchanting, you can no longer get the same affix twice. You can't get two of the same
Yep.
affix, which is
Which
really nice. Like, oh, do I want
oh,
300 int or 350 int? I don't know. Can't
yes.
decide.
Yep, it cuts down on the RNG ever so slightly, so RNG is a little bit more merciful, but um, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that for certain.
Yeah, a lot of really small changes in this patch that were nice, although not really game changing. But we're gonna skip a lot of them. So if you guys haven't read the patch notes, worth going through. Lots of good stuff in here.
Yeah. Um, let's see. One of the other really big changes they did was actually to monsters.
Hmm.
Uh, they they made it so that way champions, they're actually limiting certain affixes for the champions and rares. Some of the most damaging, the most deadly ones, like Arcane Enchanted, Desecrator, Fire Chains, Plagued. There's a list on the official patch notes that they cannot roll four affixes from this list. They just will never be able to roll four from that list. They can roll up to three, but they've also reduced the chances that an elite pack will roll with three of those. That means that you might see some of the other ones, like what is it, Jailer and Waller, more often. But it really sucks, having something that's plagued, poison, desecrator, and so it's just everything on the ground just is trying to kill you.
Yeah, I mean those crowd control types like Waller and Jailer are, in my opinion, they're really only annoying when they're comboed with some of these annoying damage dealing ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take some more crowd control if I'm not getting, frozen pulsed and frozen molten on top of that.
Yeah, definitely. Like Frozen, Poison Enchanted, and Desecrator is always a favorite of mine.
Yeah, Frozen and Arcane Enchant were my biggest weaknesses in vanilla. Now they just added a whole multitude of more annoying ones. It seems like this is kind of a pattern since the release of Vanilla D3 is just less randomization. It's like they had this idea maybe that more randomization is better because it makes more content, but that it also means less control, and they've really harnessed in I think that control and brought down some of the RNG.
Yeah, or and they've also reduced some of the ones that just the affixes that just weren't flat out not fun, like invulnerable minions.
Yeah.
So I'm still happy that is gone. So happy,
It always seemed like the yellow would just stay back, and the
You can
minions
never
would
get
go
to it.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that was one of those back in the day when it was impossible to play melee, the game hurt you even more for playing melee. So
Yeah.
that was fun times.
Yeah, definitely. Well, those are all the changes I wrote down as mentionable. Were there any others you wanted to get to?
I mean, they're definitely, we mentioned that they fixed Veer's set. They also fixed the Ina's set. So now the 4-piece set bonus on that one works properly. You do now get the benefit from all of the mantras at once on your person. Some what is it? The level 70 legendary orbs or legendary sources, legendary mojos now will roll with higher damage ranges. Apparently, that this will also apply to pre-existing ones. So if you had a mojo, if you have a wizard or a witch doctor that's just been sitting in the back, and you go back and check it, you should be doing more damage now because the offhands got buffed. And another one of the big ones is the percentage damage buff on weapons to just 9% or 10% increased damage now properly applies to elemental damage. Before it only applied if it was a black weapon that had physical damage. Now it applies to all of them, so you should see more consistent damage values with higher end weapons, so you don't have to go like, oh, it rolled poison damage, it sucks.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think good change all around. We've known about them for a while now, but we're finally getting, I think, probably the biggest patch we've had yet since release, right?
Definitely. This like I said at the beginning, I was just surprised to see this number, this level of changes when we have 2.1 on the horizon. Josh Mosquera was on Twitter just last week tweeting about it, hinting that the patch 2.1 PTR, he was tweeting about the patch 2.1 PTR as well as the patch 2.0.5 hype. So, we might get the PTR sometime within the next couple of weeks and the patch within a month or two.
That would not be too bad. Yeah, I would expect the patch within 2 months, but you never know with Blizzard, right?
Yeah, something could hold it up. You never know.
Although we do know one release date for sure. The
Yeah.
Reaper of Souls on console.
Yes, that is one of the other big things, kind of overclipped by the patch itself. But on Monday they did announce that. So when can the console gamers look forward to that?
August 19th. So I guess roughly a year after we got it for console originally. You guys for the same price, $39.99 in the U.S. You guys will be able to get Reaper of Souls for Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Xbox One.
It's the $39.99 for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Since it's just the expansion, the PS4
yes.
and Xbox One versions are their full price. They're $60.
But that will come with. They don't need to have the original game in addition to that, right?
Yeah, no. They this one is just going to be standalone. It's even if you have the previous version for the PS3 or the Xbox 360, it'll be fine. You can just go through, throw that disc in. You don't need the other CD anymore. And there is a one-way upgrade that if you had the game before, that you can import your character from your PS3 or your 360 save to the PS4 or Xbox One. I believe it stays within the console, so you can't take a PS3 character to Xbox One, but you can take a PS3 to a PS4 and take your character and all of your items in your progression and carry it over into Reaper with the new game, though you won't be able to transfer it back.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of players would be good to hear or be glad to hear that because a lot of players bought the console version before the next gen consoles came out, worrying that they might lose all that progress as soon as they got the next gen. So it's cool that they've built in that support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely really nice. They're offering so what is it? The Infernal Pauldrons. If you pre-order the game, you get a special item usable at level 1. It will level up with you. It's just something like Vitality. It's like a survivability thing. It's like got Vitality, life per second, and I believe cooldown reduction. I'm not sure what if it has any other special properties besides that, but just something that you can throw on your character level 1 and run with it.
Yes, and if you liked what the gear looked like in the Burning Crusade expansion of World of Warcraft, you'll like the Infernal Pauldrons. Quite colorful.
Yeah, and it's got a nice little red glow around it. It's all sparkly. It's infernal, yes. Diabolic.
You cannot miss these pauldrons.
Not at all.
Well, we also got a sale on Reaper of Souls right now, huh?
It's not a sale on Reaper of Souls. It's a sale on the gear. The Blizzard, the Blizzard store for the second anniversary. You can save up to 50% on almost all the Diablo merchandise in the Blizzard store. You can go and check it out. And I mean, even some of the things like the Diablo coffee mug that I was ranting and raving about in the last podcast, you can now get it for cheaper. So if you bought it when I told you to buy it, I am sorry. And if you haven't bought it yet, now you have no excuse. So now I believe they took it down from $15. Now it's $12. So, I mean, you really have no excuse at all. Go for it. Go buy it. Go now.
Why not? Yeah, and
we'll wait for you.
We'll wait now. Everyone, let us know when everyone has bought one, and we'll continue the podcast. No, yeah, some stuff is up to 50% off. I guess it was kind of a bait and switch. It felt like they're telling us about these things they're selling, and then immediately after offering a discount.
Yeah.
Diabolical, even.
Yes. Bad marketing planning. Maybe good marketing planning.
But yes, once again, you've been rewarded for procrastinating.
Definitely. That is the thing for our generation. That seems to be the running gag for millennials.
Procrastination pays off.
Yes, exactly. It's I mean it's just literally everything. All of the T-shirts, all of the mouse pads, strategy guides if that's your thing. They have the some of the books, like the Order, the Book of Tyrael, the Book of Cain. They're all on sale as well. Definitely worth picking up if you enjoy the story. Even if you don't enjoy the story, like the Book of Cain and the Book of Tyrael will make you enjoy the story. They will literally reach out and throttle you until you like it. But those are amazing things. Now that they're on sale, I would highly recommend picking them up if you haven't, if you've been tempted in the past. I believe they're like $10 off, so they're 25% off. They're worth picking up. They're really enjoyable reads. They're quick. They're not a novel. It's just like a source book material. Gives you like little snippets. Tells you like the backstory of Sanctuary, how we got to where we are now, in terms of the Diablo timeline, and goes into everything, all of the factions. You wanted to know more about the assassins, you wanted to know more about like the druids, where druids come from in D2. That's that will tell you. That will tell you how many there are, where they're activating, or where they're active from. It's a lot of really interesting stuff. And then the artwork, of course, is beautiful. So even if you don't enjoy the story, you probably will really enjoy the artwork, because you have some really big name talented artists like Brahm, who's done like tons of gothic and fantasy artwork. Contributed some illustrations. There's a very if you play Diablo, you probably have that very famous Tyrael painting that everyone has seen, everyone loves. That it was done specifically for the Book of Cain. So it's something you should check out if you haven't already. Go buy it. Go
Well,
now.
you've sold me. I haven't even read those yet, but yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Mm.
The way that you said it's laid out seems more interesting to me than a novel.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
um,
especially if you don't have time to read, it's perfect, because it literally you could probably go through each of the books in maybe an hour and a half, because it's every book, every page is just like littered with illustrations. So it's kind of telling you and showing you the timeline of Diablo and Sanctuary.
Great, good for us lazy people. Need to get back to min-maxing the game.
Hmm. Yeah, and as Navi's pointing out in the chat there, yeah, even Pindleskin got mentioned in the Book of Tyrael. If you played Diablo 2, you know who Pindleskin is. If you want to know his backstory, where he came from, what he was before,
So bad.
pick up the Book of Tyrael. Now you'll know even more about one of your favorite loot bots in Diablo 2.
Nice. Well, should we move into? Oh no, anniversary buffs. We just got
Yeah,
announced. I think today, right?
yeah, that they were data mined obviously the day before the patch went live, but now they were officially disclosed today.
And that those go live tomorrow. Is that right? I'm trying to find it.
Yes. The buff begins Thursday, May 15th at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that is 5 hours from now. 5 hour. If you're watching this live, 5 hours from now. If you're watching this on YouTube or one of our iTunes or Stitcher listeners, it's probably already live while you're listening to this tomorrow morning or
Yeah.
afternoon or the weekend,
Yeah.
whichever, whenever you want to decide to listen to us.
Still on. So double legendaries and double rift fragments.
Yeah. So that's I believe if it functions, the way that other things are, that's going to double the double drop chance in rifts.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
that's worth playing for, I'd say. Did we mention? I'm sorry. This just come to my mind, but that gold find will now be multiplicative.
Oh, yeah, that's actually something that we missed in the patch notes, that the gold find bonus for difficulty now stacks multiplicatively with your gold find from items. Because I was running around and picking up 30,000 gold piles. That's just insane. You're just walking by. I had to
Wow.
stop and be like, was that the actual number that I saw? That wasn't 2.9k, that was 29k that I picked up.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, before, if you had a bonus from higher levels and from your items, it would just add them together. Now they multiply each other. So if you have 100% bonus from your items and you're getting a 200% bonus because you're playing on Master, then that'll actually double that, and you'll end up getting a 400% bonus for 5 times the magic find. It makes a lot more. It makes a lot bigger difference when you're on the higher difficulties in the torments, though.
It gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So for those of you playing low difficulties, won't make a big difference. But if you're playing in the high torments, you're going to see a lot more gold with your gold find gear on.
Yeah. Um, One other thing that I'd like to mention, even though those are the only buffs there were a lot of other things that were data mined in the patch notes, as far as things that were labeled community buffs. I don't know if you saw those or not.
I haven't looked through the data mine information yet.
All right, I'll go into that one a little bit. Then is there was some other things. There was the standard, the 100% experience buff. There was also a 100% gold find buff. But there's other ones where like some really interesting ones. They're like starting to have fun with this. One of the buffs was actually a treasure goblin spawned in pairs. Was one of the community buffs that had been data mined. That treasure goblins will always spawn in pairs, and that I felt was like an awesome change. Or there's another one that was you're guaranteed at least one legendary in your first hour of play. They don't know how that would actually be tracked. What the strings like that would go into, and there were other ones that doubled your blood shards. So you had double the amount of blood shards, double the amount of keystones, double the amount of gold find, double the amount of goblins, double the amount of legendaries, just double everything. That should just be called its anniversary, and we doubled it.
Okay. I thought you were going to say it should be called Everyone's Getting Bored of the Game Now and Restless for 2.1, and we're desperate to keep you guys playing.
That I guess you could say it like that. That is a different way of saying it. I will admit that.
No, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if those were buffs that they just decided against, or if we're gonna have some secret buffs that they didn't announce.
Well, I mean, it's going to provide something that's just more interesting than some of the other weekend events that they ran, around launch, which was just, 50% experience buff, go have fun. You know, um, they could just go through and be like, oh, hey, it's Memorial Day, double loot goblins for everybody, or we're going into just some other holiday. It's June, we don't know what else to do. Double gold fine, go have fun.
Yeah, it would be nice to see more creative buffs. That double treasure goblin is a cool way to do it, but yeah, even if it was like randomly while you're adventuring, a portal opens up into a really quick rift that gives like 5 times normal loot, or instead of just like changing some numbers, actually putting in some like creative buffs into the game could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, so something like that, I feel would have a pretty large devotion of dev time in order to get things like that working.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but it's definitely something that I think wasn't there a mention back at the launch party stream that they were talking about doing holiday themed events in game.
Yes, they did talk about that at the launch. So yeah,
so that's something that they could do tied in with it a little bit.
touche. Yeah, it would be nice if we got that kind of support in D3. Obviously, they have more money in games like WoW, and they can afford to do a lot more promotional stuff. It'd be cool to see a little bit of that in D3.
Yeah, well, WoW, of course, is just a special case since they have continual revenue coming in, every month from the subscriptions from Diablo, just kind of generated through sales. Now that there's no more RMAH, there's no more residual income that comes in to kind of pick up the team. So it'll be interesting to see what they might come up with in order to do that. Does that mean we might get the next expansion a similar turnaround time to Reaper of Souls? Will they turn to more like episodic or episodic? How do you say that word?
Yeah,
episodic.
That's right. Episodic.
Okay. DLC type content. We'll get like little paid mini expansions. Like once a year or whatever. It might only be like $5 or $10. Kind of like the dang it, what is it? The in the game Borderlands 2. They've got a bunch of like little tiny mini expansions that they'll add in like a new dungeon or maybe a new class and a new tier of weapons and things like that. And it's, you could buy a season pass for $25 or you could buy it individually for, $5 or $7 a shot. Like little tiny things like that actually you see works phenomenally well for games of a similar type. Borderlands is more of a shooty action RPG, but it's, very similar to Diablo in that respect. And it's worked out well for them. It's something that the Diablo team could do is we'll it will just throw in, kind of, a mini act, charge $5 for it, and you can go and play it if you want to. Well,
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, obviously it'd be different than Blizzard's typical model, but it's a good point you bring up because, um, I mean, obviously they were making some good money from the real money auction house. It was not a small amount of money that was going through there, and they said themselves, I think Jay Wilson had said it in a blue post that a lot more people use the auction house a lot more frequently than they thought they would. So
mm-hmm.
whatever money warranted them putting the real money auction house in the game, they made a lot more than that. And
Yeah.
we didn't see any significant evidence that they took that money and applied it to development. I mean, since they've closed down the real money auction house, we've had about the same amount of development, and although it hasn't been very long, I think it's fair to say that we didn't get a substantial amount of support beyond what is offered in Blizzard's other non-subscription games, such as StarCraft, which leads me to suspect that the real money auction house money wasn't going straight to development. It was more going to just Blizzard profits, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're just a Blizzard fan. It might be going into other games or into future development of new games, but my guess moving forward is that we won't see a big difference with the real money auction house gone.
Could be, because I mean, StarCraft has the pros scene, and they license that out for people to use tournaments and stuff. So StarCraft actually does have a continuing level of income. They have subscriptions to WCS, partnerships with Twitch, and how they make residual income off of the product on a monthly basis in order to keep it going and keep its development up. And then the StarCraft team is also making Heroes of the Storm, which is going to have, just the free-to-play individual monetary transactions to keep it up. Diablo now is the only one that's just strictly 100% off box sales and has nothing else to support it. So it will be interesting seeing, what changes we might see, because that is, just with having to keep up with cost of development, since they're putting a lot of money into it, what changes that will make going forward for what we see in Diablo.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a good point. Is it time to move into our feedback section?
Unless you want to talk about the anniversary stream tomorrow a little bit more.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, pretty much just as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, this is more for the people here that are joining us live, because if you're listening to us on YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes, you've already heard us talk about it. But just for, the people here, tomorrow, Archon and myself were lucky enough to be picked to join the developers in the celebration stream for the second anniversary. So it's going to be pretty awesome. They're going to be streaming for most of the day. It's going to be a pretty long day for Nevelistis, since she's actually going to be in every single one of the streams. It's going from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, and is broken down into 4 categories. The first hour is going to be Wyatt Chang and Jesse McCree. One of the senior technical game designer and lead content designer, which are going to be streaming alongside Jh, the amazing community MVP for the Wizards over there on the community forums. Then the second hour, you're going to be going with Neil Wojin and Kevin Griffin, the technical and senior artists, and they'll be streaming alongside Thunderclaw, who's one of the moderators over at Our Diablo. Really awesome guy. And then I'm going to take over there. And the third section, we're going to be talking lore and story with Briar Kindergan and Leonard Boyarsky, which is the lead writer and senior world designer. And then finally, we're handing off to Archon in the fourth section, which he's the lucky bastard that actually gets to stream with the big man, Josh Mosquera, as well as Robert Foote, the senior game producer for Diablo. So it's going to be lots of fun. Come chat, hang out with us. It's all going to be live. It's all going to be on Twitch. It's going to be, on the twitch.tv/Diablo, the official Blizzard stream, and just come hang out, ask questions, submit feedback. If I'm obviously a really big lore guy. I have a post up on diablo.blizzpro.com right now. If you have any questions about the story itself that you'd like to have answered, either shoot me an email. I'll check either, 9ball@blizzpro.com or Westmarch workshop@blizzpro.com. or find the posts that I have up there and submit some comments or questions. Definitely would love to hear some of your questions.
Yeah, it's supposed to be more of a hangout than an interview, but I'm sure we'll be asking a lot of questions as well. So if you had any questions for Josh Mascara, um, tweet them to me, and if I think they're good, I'll try to work them in. But yeah, at Archon the Wizard on Twitter. Should be a lot of fun. But speaking
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, yeah, a really cool idea. Just hanging out with the devs and whatnot. Nevelist has putting together some good stuff ever since she joined the community team.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of you guys sending us email and tweets, we were a little low this week. So I just wanted to, before we get into the feedback, try to inspire you guys. Keep in mind, if you guys email us at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com or tweet us at ArchonTheWizard or 9ballgamer, you'll probably get your message read on the podcast. Almost definitely.
Yep. Which also makes me think, I guess maybe it's time that we actually created a Westmarch Workshop Twitter account to make that easy.
Yeah. The problem, though, is that we're really lazy.
that we are. That we are.
So for now, don't trust us to make a Twitter account. We'll let you know.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Yeah, but we did get a little bit of feedback this week. I think we're going to forego the build section, but
because we are already running late.
Yes, it's true. We're already quite late. So yeah, maybe I'll let you take. I'll give you some. You take away the feedback section. You have studied these emails more than I, and I trust you with it.
All right. One of the big ones, of course, if you've been watching or listening into some of our previous episodes, we've been going through with the viewer submitted items of the week, and there's been kind of an arms race going on with these obscenely damaged one-handed crossbows. But Danny Ray submitted us an excellent theory crafting post, going through and talking about how we're wrong. And that even though the numbers is impressive, the actual damage that it does isn't. So that's he goes through. It's a pretty substantial thing. I think I might actually go and post this up on diablo.blizzpro.com. Going into why it's those damage numbers aren't as impressive as they look. And why going through and looking at some of the comparisons when you have a two-hander or when you're dual wielding just with any dual wield with sockets are going to perform, more or less the same regardless of what damage they have. So lots of good stuff. From there, we talked, we had some feedback on I shouldn't be playing Warhammer. I enjoy it. It's my money. I'm sorry you don't agree with my choice, but that's the game that I enjoy.
No! Why are you playing a game I don't want you to play?
But I do still appreciate your opinion. That it's something that you obviously feel strongly enough to try and warn me about. So I definitely appreciate your enthusiasm, and you're looking out for my safety and my wallet. But
on the flip side, everyone
right
yes, sorry. On the flip side, everyone seemed to enjoy the fact that I was playing Pathfinder.
Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback on Pathfinder, and we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast, and so we're just coming full circle now. So we got some tweets on a website to go and play Pathfinder on. It has a lot of rules and stuff. I think it's called Roll D20.
That's what we use.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. He's already using it. That is how much he took your feedback to heart.
Yeah, I loved it so much. I listened to your feedback 2 weeks before you gave it.
There you go. There you go. Just some other feedback. We have some people, wanting to say if we'd be looking for a guest on the podcast. Something definitely not opposed to.
Yes,
I don't know. Do you have any reservations?
No, just pure laziness, really. We need to talk to someone from BlizzPro. Hino does the layouts and stuff, so we'd have to get a 3-person layout. But definitely no fundamental reason why we couldn't have a guest here. I think it would make for a good show.
Yeah, especially when we go through and we cover, the class that we don't play. Getting someone, someone from the community that is like really into that class. Because we actually had one of the people that sent it in an email was his name is Zach, and he offered up. He plays a ton of Crusaders. He's actually a moderator over at the Diablo 3 Crusaders subreddit that is just focused on that class, and he'd love to come on and talk about. Maybe something that we'll go and look into.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll look into that one for sure. Um,
For
and then
sure.
there's one other one that we actually had. We don't only check the emails. We got another comment that I actually wanted to address. Is someone on YouTube wanted to comment on why I play hardcore. To them, they see hardcore as you level up a character, you gear it out, you die. You level up a character, you gear it out, you die. And how anyone could see that as fun, and that just seems boring and repetitive. From that perspective, it's difficult to argue because if you go real high up and you look at it, that's what you're doing, but that's not what you get out of it. That's not what the enjoyment is. And I'm going to be going off on a hardcore rant again, but it's the playing the game. It's a feeling that you don't get in softcore. Like when I started playing softcore again and just went straight into Torment 3 on a fresh level 70 with 2 million toughness, um, I died less than the other people in my group because it was one of those ones. Oh shit! I went to 50% health. I need to hit Serenity. I need to back out and kite these mobs. It's you. Your heart does things to you because you realize that this character is going to die, and if they die, it's gone. All the work that you put into it is gone. It just gives more a greater level of attachment to your character. It has more importance. Every decision that you make matters, and when you get put into a difficult scenario, it's an actual difficult scenario with long-lasting, negative ramifications if you make a mistake. And it's that feeling that you get while you play, and it's that feeling that you get to death that is why a hardcore player plays hardcore. And it's not for everybody. Some people, that feeling doesn't rival the regret you get after losing your character. That is perfectly fine, to each his own. But
Yeah,
for
I would add on
myself,
to that don't assume that it's not for you.
mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
assume that most people who haven't tried hardcore would enjoy it a lot more than they think. Put a dozen hours into it and then give your opinion, because I was never turned on to hardcore, but after playing it, I can say even though I still play mostly softcore, I can say pretty confidently that I enjoy playing hardcore more. I just don't enjoy dying.
Yeah, it's something everyone should experience at least once. You should get a character up to 70, gear them out, go into Torment, and just, go into that one rift where you enter into level 1. You have 2 elites and a champion pack. There's all of them have jailer. There's a waller, arcane beams, poison flying everywhere, and that feeling that you hear your heart beating in your chest the entire time as you're running in. You find a 4th pack that you accidentally run into, and you're just going through. You're watching your cooldowns. You know where every single health orb has dropped on the map, and you're hitting them, actually strategically instead of running through all of them, because you're like, oh crap, nothing is anywhere near close to dying or hitting 50% health, and I only have 5 health orbs on the field. My health potion's on cooldown. I don't have enough discipline to hit shadow. What is it? Sorry, smoke screen. And it kind of slows down. You're taking all of this in. It's just an amazing feeling that you don't get in softcore, because if you die, you die. But in hardcore, you lose your character, so everything matters. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. No problem. I do not have anything against it if you play softcore, but at least try it before you look at it negatively. It is an experience. It's an experience.
Indeed. Did we want to
Mm-hmm.
go into the items of the week? Or are we.
I think we have enough time for it. So yeah, let's go and we can do the items of the week. I guess we'll be skipping build of the week. We had a couple people submit some builds and some questions. We'll throw that into next week's episode. So don't worry, we'll get back to you.
All right, well, starting up, Alex submitted this SOJ. We've been getting some really sexy SOJs, and this one is no exception. It's one crit away from being a perfect strength lightning SOJ.
perfect across the board.
And the good news is, crit is what he's enchanting, so it might be perfect any day now.
Yeah, I want to see it. Alex, if you're listening to this podcast, I want to see it when you roll that as a perfect 6% ring, because that is just beautiful in a statistical anomaly, because I think it's like almost perfect for everything, because I think the max that you can get on the secondary resist is 150.
Oh yeah, that's right. Almost perfect
So it's
lightning
almost
res.
even it's almost even perfect lightning res. And I guess the only diminishing thing on it is I think it's you can roll between 8 and 12 maximum wrath. But who cares about that? Who cares?
Yeah, right.
But that is going to be a beautiful thing. I will set that as like my desktop background if you submit the picture with that with 6% crit.
Very nice.
I swear.
Well, we also got Andiris. He submitted these Jade Harvester shoulders with perfect int, almost, or I guess average vit, almost perfect all res, almost perfect life percent. Not too shabby.
Yeah, it's definitely really nice. And shoulders are one of those ones where most of the shoulders that you use, there's nothing special about them. They're just, your main stat, vitality, and then either resist, armor, life percentage if you want toughness, or area effect or skill damage if you want some DPS. So it's nice seeing something that's, it's, even though the vitality is kind of middle of the road, everything else is phenomenal on it. And he hasn't even re-enchanted anything, so he could take that any direction that he wanted to. If you're a hardcore player, I would leave it as it is, or re-roll life into armor. Or if you're a softcore character, I would probably re-roll the life into skill damage bonus or area effect damage, whichever works better for you.
Yeah, and of course, if those were the exact stats you wanted, then Vit's going to be the one to try to get a little bit more of, but only if you have the mats to spare, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, definitely be probably one of the last items I attempt to re-roll if you're hurting for Forgotten Souls.
Yeah. We got Stone and Jordan here from Joe. Not quite as nice, but still pretty impressive with a maximum cold skill and damage against elites rolls. Almost a max int. Just needs to start trying to get that armor into crit, I guess.
Yeah, just re-roll the armor into crit, and you're going to have a pretty decent item there.
Yeah. I guess crit damage isn't bad either, but I think 6 crit's going to beat 50 crit damage most of the time, huh?
Most of the time.
Yeah, pretty close. Alright, from Kaj, we got 2 items, and the first one is this Renho Flayer. One-handed crossbow, ceremonial knife. Almost, well, let's see, just over 2,400 damage. Crazy nice for a ceremonial knife.
Yeah, it just needs... Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's getting some of that damage from attack speed, but that's without the damage bonus.
So. Yeah, that was just the comment that I was going to make, is like re-roll that attack speed into damage bonus, unless the socket is what you re-rolled. But I think we would see the little swirl next to the socket that does show whether it's been enchanted now or not, right?
Oh, I didn't realize, but
But yeah. If you did enchant it to get the socket, still pretty good. If you didn't, the attack speed is the one you want to re-roll. Get that into damage percentage, and then that 2,400 DPS will really be 2,400 DPS.
Yeah, your int's gonna be hindered by any other. It's not gonna be quite 7% extra damage from 7% attack speed, because you probably already have some attack speed on your gear, but the percent damage will be an actual. It will actually reflect the amount of increased damage you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And the other item that Kaj submitted was this Mara's Kaleidoscope. Almost a perfect trifecta after getting 100% crit damage on there. Really high int roll. Is the 700 the max on there?
I believe so. Yeah, 700 is the max for the main stat. I think the attack speed is 6%.
Yeah.
Or is it 7?
Oh, it might be 7. Yes, I think it is 7 on legendaries, 6 on rares.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got a bad roll on the legendary affix, but the good part about the legendary affix is the prevent all damage, not so much the heal percent.
Heal. Yeah, the heal is just gravy. The preventing damage is the real thing. So, plagued and poison enchanted mobs, it's like standing in a healing well. You just get healing in through your feet. Up 750. Thank you. The people went in and started correcting us. 750 is the max stat. So I guess that's middle of a road for the intelligence. But the trifecta is where you're getting most of the damage from, definitely.
Yeah,
that max crit damage and crit chances. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's the thing with amulets is they can pretty much all be good. Doesn't matter how bad the legendary affix is. If you get a good enough trifecta roll, it's going to be a badass amulet.
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, that was it for our items of the week. I think next week the plan is to kind of flash back through the last 2 years of D3 and maybe even beyond.
Yeah, we had originally planned to want to try and do that with this episode, but the patch dropped. So it was kind of, we could talk about, we could talk about the past 2 years of playing Diablo, what it's been like since launch and such, but we wouldn't have time for everything because we were already running, obscenely long just talking about the patch by itself. So
yeah, but yeah, tune in next week for that. Lots of nostalgia. If you've been playing for over a year, I'm sure you'll have something you can relate to us on as we take a look back.
And illicit media there in the chat just linked an item that we're going to have to include in next week's. It's a Tasker and Theo trifecta.
Oh wow, yeah, that's send that in. That's a pretty nice trifecta.
Yep.
Very sexy.
And it's Tasker and Theo.
Yeah.
Which is, on his Witch Doctor.
Yes, which we learned last week has a very small chance of dropping.
Yep. As the Witch Doctor, I believe that is the Mask of Jerem that he's wearing in that screenshot as well. So,
Illicit's been putting in some time.
Yes. Applause. It's like definitely that's. Congratulations, you win Diablo. The way that the Witch Doctors have been ripping it through.
Yeah,
I am envious. Nice. I am definitely envious.
All right. Well, unless Nineball had anything else, I think that's going to bring this week's episode to a close.
No, that is pretty much it.
All right. Well, we hope you guys tune in next week as we take a look back on Diablo. Hope you guys get out there, enjoy patch 2.0.5. This looks like biggest patch yet, and hopefully it'll hold you guys over till the infamous 2.1.
Yeah, and definitely tune in tomorrow for the anniversary stream. Catch both of us. We'll be closing out the show in the last half of the stream there. We'll hang out with the devs, chat, get your questions answered. It's not going to be a formal interview. It's more like the developer streams that they had a month ago. So come hang out, have fun.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys watching Westmarch Workshop as always. Tune in on twitch.tv/ArchonTheWizard on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, or catch us on YouTube. Follow us at ArchonTheWizard and at NineballGamer. Send us your feedback at westmarchworkshop@bluespro.com, and you'll be featured on the show. Until next week, Archon out. Nineball 2. He's typing stuff.
Nineball's already gone, so. Good night, everybody. Or good morning. Guten Abend. I guess it's more of a greeting, not a goodbye. I'm talking through the outro, aren't I?
Music stopped a while ago. We'll see you guys.
Oh, okay. Bye.